start the live streaming on YouTube also, and then start the session, maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Right, I think Francesca is here. Welcome, Francesca.
Hello, sorry. My Wi-Fi was cutting out on me.
No worries, no worries. We're just waiting for 2 more of our panelists to join. Hera, I still can't see Suroto in the attendees or the panelists. Could you please check with him?
Yes, he said it's he hasn't approved it. He used phone. He said iPhone. I don't know.
No, he's not here yet. And
okay,
also,
right. I'll try to check with him.
LPDB also, actually. Oh yes, I think Mr. Jonas is here. Can you add him as a panelist? Okay, Suroto is here. All right.
Hi, Ganesh.
Hi, Suroto.
I'm
Lovely
here.
to see you. Hello.
Nice to see you.
Right. So I think
you look so great.
Thank you. You too. Shri, live streaming? Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion on enabling environment for youth in cooperatives. Apologies for the 3-4 minute delay. We had some delay in connecting to some of our speakers, but all of them are here. So basically, just a line before I hand over the baton to the moderator of the session. So we have organized this panel discussion on enabling environment for youth and cooperatives to focus on various facets that inhibit youth participation either in the cooperative ecosystem or factors that can significantly increase youth participation, encourage cooperativism in the coming generation among the youth, especially in the context of the post-pandemic world, rebuilt together better, and so on. So we have a lot of resurgent interest and a lot of conversation moving around the social and solidarity economy, as well as collective enterprises in today's day. So this is more to give a context and understanding to all of our participants, our friends here, and experts from various fields, and look at various subdomains and aspects where work can be done, where good work is already being done, sharing best practices and so on. So I hand over the baton to Mr. P. Santosh Kumar, the Director of Legislation at the International Cooperative Alliance headquarters in Brussels, Belgium. So Santosh would be the moderator for the session and would be introducing the rest of the speakers. So over to you, Santosh.
Thank you very much, Ganesh, and good morning and good afternoon, perhaps good evening for Anthony and Francesca in Australia. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be part of this summit, the 3rd edition of the Youth Summit that brings together cooperatives from Asia Pacific, young cooperatives from Asia Pacific. Let me tell you that 10 years back in 2010, about 11 years back, the United Nations had proclaimed 2010 as the International Year of Youth. And then the International Cooperative Alliance took cue from that and declared 2011's International Day of Cooperatives theme as Youth as the Future of Cooperative Enterprise. And here we are, 11 years later, trying to celebrate the young people and young cooperators as the torch bearers of the cooperative movement. It used to be quite difficult. I think Hira, Anthony would agree, because I do know among the speakers who were there from around that time that it was so difficult to explain what a cooperative is to a young person that, you know, from our friend circle perhaps, or our peer, but now it's not the case. So we have to see how what the future holds, especially when the world has been reminded of the need to be together, so much so that even the Olympics that used to, for generations or for almost a millennia, rest on the three, how do I say, the three terms, the Citius, Altius, and Fortius, and now it's together as well. So being together has been, I think, recognized. We're talking about recovery from the pandemic, but I think there is a need to consider repair the damage that has been done. And the damage has been most suffered and by young people, as was discussed in the opening ceremony of this summit. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from the young cooperators who are with us today and who will be sharing their experience in the context of enabling environment. Hi Faisal. Mr. Faisal Khan is the Registrar of Cooperatives in Fiji that has also won, I think recently, its gold medal in Rugby 7. Well, not a surprise. Congratulations to you. Ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls and others, we've curated this session to shed light on an important aspect of cooperative business, enabling environment. An enabler, I believe, is something that helps a species evolve, aids to its evolution, builds strength and resilience. And we're obviously going to probably stick to the business side of things, but I'd also like to hear from the speakers on how the associative nature of cooperatives sort of builds resilience for the cooperative model. Cooperatives, as you all know, are an international idea, international business idea. And as you can see on your screen, we have experts from Indonesia, Australia, Fiji, and in India, of course, and the number of attendees in the list. So we are all here from different parts of the world, doing different kinds of things and businesses, but the commonality is that we adhere to a common identity. That's our commonality, and I don't think any other, at least business model, can take pride in that. So we are indeed an international movement, and that's what we are here to celebrate. Without further ado, I think I'll just quickly introduce today's panel. I'm happy to first introduce my old friend and a mentor to a lot of Indonesian and Asia Pacific cooperators, Ms. Hira Hardianti. She's an educator, and most recently, from being an Indonesian cooperator, she's transcended to become an international cooperator. We'd like to know how, because this is something that we're trying to crack. How did you become an international cooperator, and what's your journey been for, in the context of My Cool class? We'll hear from her in a bit. From Indonesia, we also have evolutionary, I would say, Suroto Bravo, who's been instrumental in taking forward the cooperative movement in Indonesia and inspiring a generation of young people, not only in Indonesia, but around. Among many things, Suroto has also was also a part of the team that that challenged an amendment to the law in Indonesia, and successfully so, while he was still very young, and he's still very young. So honored to be part of the same panel. Suroto, welcome. We also have from our membership from Australia, from BCCM, Mr. Anthony Taylor, who's a policy officer and really an inspiration for all the lawyers working in the co-op movement, I must say. If you don't have his email ID, please take it and spam him as much as you can. He has with him Ms. Francesca Clark, who's a student and youth representative of BCCM to the Global Youth Network of the ICA. Welcome, Francesca. Nice to meet you. We also have Mr. Jons William, head of the Division and Monitoring and Evaluation and Research Unit of the LPDB from the Ministry of SMEs and Cooperatives of Indonesia. This is an agency for revolving fund management for cooperatives and small and medium enterprises, which was established in 2006. And he'll be speaking about funding and finance. And am I missing anybody? We were supposed to have Mr. Rohan Clark from Wayfarer Cooperative. However, I think he has got an unforeseen engagement that he has to be part of. So if we have covered everyone, and the housekeeping items, Ganesh, everything is clear. We will be recording this session. The session is going live on YouTube. All the speakers have 15 minutes, and we'll try and discover what enabling environment for cooperatives mean, and perhaps have a discussion after the presentations. So may I request Hira to begin, if you don't mind, and I'll keep the time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Santos. It reminds me like 11 years ago, the first time I contact you about the youth movement in Indonesia. I still remember and still keep the writings I sent to you and put it, I think the first like a journal or the first published writings I ever made in my life. Okay. All right. You said that everyone in the beginning, almost everyone on the opening ceremony, they quote this from the President Ariel Gorko, that young people are not the future of the movement. They must be present because the urgent problems of today means the future of our movement and our civilization at the stake. And yeah, we should be agreed that it's not for tomorrow, it is for today. And as we believe, as cooperator, the cooperative model is an alternative business model to the current one. A business model which responds to the needs of all stakeholders, like employees, customers, suppliers, and the local community, and the environment, future generation, as well as an investor. So as we know, that's unlike a capitalist business, where the more successful the business is, the higher the return of investor. A successful cooperative set limits on interest and instead plow profit back in the business and pay dividend payment to the members. And this is the research that after 5 years in business, 90% of co-ops are still operating. It is only 1 from 20 the traditional business stay open for 5 years. It means that, yeah, the co-op is really resilient for the 5 years in business. And we know that the business is lasting until 100 years after. As here, in Indonesia, we have the co-op, like saving and loans co-ops. They established since the Dutch colonized. It's like 90 years old, and it still exists and still work. And I took it from the research from University of Saskatchewan. There is top issues in 2020 about what is the problem? What is the issue in the co-op movement? That we agree we have to improving awareness about the relevant cooperative model among the general public, members, youth, government, and other stakeholders. And then we have issue about the governance, cooperative governance. We have issue also with the access to capital, financing. As now, we are in my co-class dealing with it, and developing strong cooperative leaders. So, in the cooperative leaders, in the cooperative environment, and cooperators and activists, we just see that there's people, we know each other. Like we need a new faces and the cooperative movement, of course. And another one is the cooperative development. So it is mean that we should go globally, not only at local. And actually, I believe that when Nelson Mandela said that education is the important weapon to change, to make a change. And as well in our cooperative movement. We have the principle of education. We have a principle 5 who will emerge with all the principles we have in the cooperative identity. So, and like I think last week, I attended one meeting with the cooperative university and institute who learn about cooperative as part of their subject. And I can mention like Universidad Cooperativa di Colombia, and then University Coop in Japan, Concordia Institute for Cooperative Education, Sheffield Hallam University, and they developed the fair shares models, or St. Mary's University. And also in Indonesia, we have ICOPIN, and we will turn to Beyond University. In Malaysia, we have Institute Koperasi Malaysia. We have Mosi Cooperative University in India. We have Sanasa Campus in Sri Lanka. We have Center Cooperative, the University of Wisconsin Medicine, and many cooperative education they start in the university, and this really makes me very happy. And as well, we talk about the formal education, and we go to another education we can find online. It's like My Co-op, that's from ILO, and then Coopedia. This is the project for Co-op for Deaf, which is me as one of the contributor. It's really good project actually. And then we have also Co-op Academy. So you can attend this meeting every time they have webinars. And it is to come in this August is the platform cooperative now. This is the first time I connected with everyone in the platform cooperatives consortium, and we held a course which is like 49 local partners around the world, and then more than 800 participants, and as well more than 200 projects in that. And then also UCO, this is for high education. And Santos always talk to me about the mycoclass.com. This is a mycoclass cooperative. Is actually this is worker co-op registered in UK, and then who is the member? The member is all the teachers and also tutor, and not only English, because yes, it is a start from the English teacher, but actually we recruit, we welcome to all people who can teach for every subject. Can teach art, law, business, math, history, and we have now like 300 members from around the world. And then this is what I'm doing as a new educator in my campus in ICOPIN. And I also give training or like non-formal education, like seminars to young people, like this one. They are from the school co-op, which is I ever written 11 years ago. And then maybe people what is the different what I'm doing? It's been teaching and mentoring. What is kind of work I'm doing? So with teaching, yeah, we full of the all theoretical knowledge, and then we have to come to set predefined rules because they have curriculum. And then the main goal of teacher for student is like you have to get a great grades, and teacher is still learning through authority. So sometimes as a teacher in the institution, you can't set. I mean, I talk in terms of my country. You can't set things you want to give to the student. Now I'm really love to do the mentoring, because the mentoring is not like everything, but we learn together. So because mentoring is a great learning how to navigate through complex social situation. We can sit together, we We learn from also from mentee and mentee from mentor, and then just the best relationship between mentor and mentee as well. And also the teaching come from mentor experience wisdom. I remember that when I graduated from the ECOPIN, I fell in love with one teacher, and she's really a killer teacher, per se, you can say. But I said to her, because I like the way she taught us, I just want to be her mentee, and I've been her mentee until he's died. Her died in this really young age, because of cancer. So I think I have to following the footprints, what she's done to us. This is the best time I ever had in my life. One of the best time, which is I gather with all people, young people in Asia Pacific. You see, there is 3 ambassadors from Indonesia, and we still have a good relation with them. So this is what the mentor and mentee relationship in this case. And I'm so happy when 3 of them, the ambassadors from Indonesia, they have their own path and then still working for a cooperative with their own way. Because mentoring is really important for young people at this time. You know, like here we are in lockdown, we can't go to school. So my suggestion for all young people, you have to get your mentor. And because mentor, you can get the support, you encourage you to how to develop your potential, develop your skills, improve your performance, and become the person you wanted to be. And you know, I do mentoring as well for the old people like this. They retired men from one state company, but they run co-ops in their retirement. And also for the young, not too young, but yeah, they're still young women in the community. So because the mentoring is important for you, so you can find mentor everywhere. Can be the benefit of the mentoring that can help the mentor will help trust yourself that you can do something, and then you have network opportunities. That's what I got from to be a mentor and from mentoring project. And then our skill is really growth because we learn many things from many mentors, of course. And the important thing is encouragement. It's really hard to find, and not everyone can you give encouragement, but you need it. And the last thing you can get from the mentoring, the benefit is better works outcome. So who is to become the mentor? You can do this like family. Like I get mentored by my father because he was the co-op board in our community, our little community, our neighborhood. I have a relative as well, and then friends or peers or teacher. That's like I said before, trainers, expert, another expert, the senior, even the younger from us. But the important thing, like Oprah Winfrey said, that mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. And a mentor is not someone who walks ahead of you to show you how they did it, but a mentor just walks alongside you to show what you can do. This is the beautiful of the mentoring. So you can find any mentor for develop yourself, trusting yourself to broaden your horizon about many things you want to know. All right, this is the family. They are mentors. Maybe some of you know. One of them is speaker. One of the speakers here, the Suroto, we know about Pak Robi. He's just like mentors, like a father, like a teacher. And we still in close relationship because there is a mentor and mentee. There is not like teacher when you graduate from school and the relationship it finished. But for mentor, you can have a long relationship. Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Hira. I think you've shed a new light on the various aspects of enabling environment by alluding to education as an aspect, which usually doesn't get included in the definition of what enabling environment usually means. As I mentioned earlier, an enabling environment is mostly for business environment, and it includes policy, institutional, regulatory, infrastructure, and cultural conditions that govern formal and informal business activities. But I think for cooperatives from the very beginning, and this is a fact that since 1844, at least in the consumer cooperative, modern day consumer cooperative movement, education has been a practice, a principle from the beginning, and it continues even today. So you shed light on that. You also helped us understand the importance of mentorship in education as an important aspect of how cooperatives can
Yes.
thrive, because it's part of the enabling environment. And also, we have to recognize the 103 participants or 105 participants on this panel who are all young, and they're going to take this story and become storytellers for cooperatives. I mean, just the way you and I probably, Hira, 10 years back. So I'm really thrilled that we started with education that should be given precedence, and congratulations on setting up My Cool Coop, My Cool Class, I'm sorry. But I wonder why it's still a .com and not .coop. We can take that later.
We'll tell privately with you.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot. I think we'll take questions perhaps in the end. I'm sorry, at the outset, the webinars, we have to restrict the speakers to 15 minutes and take questions in the end. I mean, it's really the important things get left behind, but we're very happy to have the speakers with us. So let's make the most of it. May I invite now from Australia, our team from Australia, Mr. Anthony Taylor and Ms. Francesca Clark, to share their ideas on the enabling environment. And very briefly, Anthony is the policy officer of BCCM. He's a lawyer, but and also BCCM is one of the pioneers, I would say, in the ICA membership to have really cracked open the door to have a better relationship with the government and other stakeholders, all of whom are very important in this so-called enabling environment. So over to you, Anthony and Francesca.
Well, thanks, Santosh, and thank you for the ICA for organising today's discussion and the broader event. So maybe our discussion will also be outside, the really strict parameters of enabling environment, but because I'm going to focus a little bit more on education as the main issue. So looking at this question of how can we get youth more involved in co-ops in Australia, I would say the education system is the main barrier. There are some other things. So we could look at, if we looked at the cooperative legislation in Australia, we could come across an issue with the age limit to be a director. But I think that's something first we just need to have more youth wanting to form co-ops, and then we can deal with that as a secondary issue. So the real thing is just to have people being aware. It's awareness, which we all know in the co-op movement internationally is the big thing that we're always up against, is how can we better explain our model and the benefits of it and get more people involved. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the policy environment around getting more cooperative education in Australia. Then I'll hand over to Francesca to talk a bit about her perspective as a current student in the high school system in Australia. And And then I'll just talk briefly at the end about what we could do in terms of what government policy could do to help with there being more education on co-ops. And talk about education, particularly focused on the secondary system. There's work to do across the whole education system, informal, formal, universities as well, but just to focus on people who are at that stage, youth who are maybe in high school about to thinking about what they want to do as a career or uni or, you know, those sorts of things. It's a good time for people to be learning about co-ops. So in Australia, we had a parliamentary inquiry into co-ops and mutuals in 2016. That was an important thing that BCCM and our members pushed for and then participated in that inquiry. And there are a lot of important recommendations out of it and findings. But one of the important ones was that co-ops are not in the education system enough. And that's part of the reason why people in Australia don't know about co-ops. So the stat in Australia is that 8 in 10 Australians, when you include the cooperative movement and the broader mutual sector, 8 in 10 people are members, but only 3 in 10 know it. And so we know that education is one of the main issues there. So having a look at what's actually in the curriculum for high school, secondary school in Australia, there's only one mention in the current national curriculum of cooperatives, and it's in the Year 8 Business and Economics curriculum. If you look at this screenshot, there's a mention under the different forms of business ownership of cooperative as one of the forms, but this is the only mention in the whole curriculum where co-ops hopefully would at least be mentioned. But in other subjects like history or other social sciences or humanities, you probably won't hear about co-ops at all. So that's the current situation in Australia. I'm just going to hand over to Francesca now to just talk about, from her perspective as a current student, what she's seeing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anthony. And thank you everyone for the opportunity today. This is really exciting. So my experience as someone who studied business management course in Australia is that the ideas of cooperatives are extremely limited within the school environment, as you can see if you want to go forward, Anthony, or just to the next slide. Yeah, perfect. This is the only mention. This is actually a snippet from the textbook for business management, and that is the only time a cooperative business structure is ever mentioned throughout the course with a one-line definition. It's just not enough. The business structure of cooperatives allows everyone to share a common goal. And this structure, I believe, is like essential for people like myself to solve pressing world issues such as climate change, poverty, and terrorism. And I find the most unfortunate thing about this all is that it's not because students don't want to learn about cooperatives in Australia, it's just that we don't have the exposure. This might be because of past stereotypes or traditions, but I believe, and I know many other Australian young people would also believe that these are the solutions and that there just needs to be more use of them, like Anthony was saying, within our school environment so that we can get the exposure that we need to them. So that's my experience with cooperatives in schools.
Thank you. So from a policy perspective, what could we do, or what? Obviously, there's a role for the cooperative movement to do some of this itself and find ways to expand the education, but there is a policy role for government as well, and that is pretty clearly, you know, in the ILO recommendation 193 on the promotion of co-ops has a section specifically on that there's a role for government to ensure there's education and training on cooperative principles at all appropriate levels of national education. And the parliamentary inquiry I mentioned in Australia mirrored that with one of the recommendations saying that the government needed to work to improve the recognition and understanding of co-ops in the secondary school curriculum, as well as tertiary education. So BCCM we've still got a way to go on this, but just last month we made a submission to a review of the Australian curriculum. And I think, we're still a long way behind what you'd see in some of our colleagues in Asia Pacific are doing, like in Indonesia and Malaysia, where there is a really big school cooperative movement. But we've at least recommended here for some changes to include co-ops in the civics subjects in Australia and the history subject. So just for civics, there's, as an example, there's talk in that subject about participation in civil society, for example, and there's and maybe getting involved in a community organization. So we've said, well, really there should be mention there of cooperatives, and maybe you could have when people are choosing to do a case study exercise, they could look at what it would mean to get involved in a local cooperative as a local civil society democratic organization. And I think, Santosh, your point about thinking about the social aspect or the democratic part of cooperatives is important there, and we can make that point about if we want to strengthen democracy, political democracy, that economic and social democracy through the cooperative movement is important. And we have also suggested that they could improve the amount of content on co-ops in the business subject beyond just talking about it's a type of business. But that's where we're up to in Australia. And I think, just getting exposure in mainstream education is probably the biggest thing that we can do to start off with getting more of a youth cooperative movement here in Australia. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Anthony and Francesca. Thanks also for focusing on education and the importance of it. And I agree with Anthony. Civics is an important, I think, fulcrum to spread education on cooperatives, because that's, I think, it can look at both sides of the co-op model, both the business side and the associated or the associative or the civil society side. And I remember when I was, I think, 10 or 11, I came across cooperatives. The only time perhaps in my whole school life was in civics, where cooperatives were included just after partnerships in terms of the kinds of businesses that were plying in India. Just to also shed light on the fifth principle that's been the key for our speakers so far. The fifth principle is on education, training, and information. And it reads that cooperatives provide education and training for their members, elected representatives, managers, and employees, so that they can contribute effectively to the development of their cooperatives. They inform the general public, particularly young people and opinion leaders, about the nature and benefits of cooperation. And this, as Anthony had mentioned in paragraph 8.1f of the promotion of cooperatives recommendation, as well as the fact that the identity statement of the ICA statement on cooperative identity being included in this promotion of cooperatives recommendation makes it, I think, legally binding, because the recommendation is an international labor standard, which by definition is international law. So I don't understand why cooperatives have still not found their place in the education system and in curricula. So it's a question that hopefully will be resolved within this decade. And thanks again, Anthony and Francesca. I don't want to take more time. Maybe we'll come back to you when we have questions. I'm now pleased to invite Mr. Faisal Khan from, we started with a newly formed cooperative, a co-founder. We went to a well-functioning Apex peak body for cooperatives. And now let's move to the government side, the young registrar from Fiji, on his thoughts on enabling environment. The floor is yours, Faisal.
Thank you, Santosh. Nimbuluminaka and Bola from Fiji. Thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to speak at this young and youth forum. Just in a nutshell, for those who are not very familiar with Fiji, Fiji is located at the hub of the South Pacific. We are made up of 300 islands spread across the archipelago, and with a population of less than 1 million. So obviously it's a very small country. We're just a dot on the map, but yet we hope to always continue to punch above our weight. So with less than 1 million population, as per the data from the last census, we have got about 70% of our population below the age of 40, signifying there is a lot of young and youth energy that's out there, and that will provide very useful in terms of our economic recovery efforts. Obviously, the current situation is not the ideal situation, but whenever there's adversity, there is always opportunity as well that can arise from this adversity. And I'm sure any other country just will always be looked towards where the drive and the energy is at, so that we can make enabling policies and enabling environment to capitalize on that. And Fiji is no different from this. And I'm glad to also share some of the Fiji's highlights in terms of the cooperative industry that we have. Such as, so in Fiji, our cooperative industry is made up of more than 400 operating cooperatives right now as we speak, with a consolidated asset base of more than 130 million Fijian dollars, a turnover of sales turnover of more than close to 20 million Fijian dollars. And we are also, as the department and in charge of, or the regulator in charge of the cooperative industry, our function is to provide the policy advice. In addition to that, we also have got a training college. So it is interesting listening to Anthony and Francesca speak about this training aspect and education aspect. And it is also interesting to hear our colleague from Indonesia as well. So that is one aspect that we also have under our ambit, apart from policy making. And we also do have funding opportunities as well that cooperatives may tap into. So we have got programs such as the Young Entrepreneurship Scheme. So this Young Entrepreneurship Scheme, or the YES program that they call it, is a targeted program for the youths in Fiji who have a innovative and unique business idea. And that has the ages of, and so if you have a unique or innovative idea, you can apply for this grant, it will be assessed, and then based on the assessment, you will be provided a grant. So that is specifically targeted for the youths. There is other programs which youth can also apply for, funding opportunities that's also out there. So coming back to what makes an enabling environment, one is obviously just general awareness. Two is having the right regulatory framework, in place, such as startup costs, having the right tax incentives, I suppose, having those hand-holding services such as awareness, training opportunities, educational opportunities, dedicated environment. We also have, in the past, as we speak right now, the national budget is being debated. So the national budget sets out our policy mandate for the coming year, and it is very much tied to our vaccination. So something very relevant and current. Our vaccination drive right now needs to increase to give for us to go back to normalizing our operations, because right now in the business, in any environment, we are operating in an environment of lockdowns. We are operating in an environment of curfew hours. We are operating in an environment of constant outbreaks. So just at any point in time, lockdowns can be imposed just overnight. So as a cooperative, as an entrepreneur, people need to be ready for this, need to adapt accordingly. And it's the youth who are able to adapt accordingly and a very much rapid rate. As we are moving towards opening up businesses and economic recovery, this is somewhere thing that we think that youth play a very important role. namely the vaccination rates that are out there. Two is come in actually capitalizing on the technology platforms that's out there. Given that we are limiting customer interaction, so how do they adapt? So we, in the budget has been announced, they have mentioned a number of incentives that has incentivized cooperatives and MSMEs to come on board and take advantage of the digital platform space. For example, moving on virtual payments, online payments, having a payment gateway that will enable people to move towards a cashless society. But we just need to create more awareness. Obviously, with any change, there is a element of fear or reservations. So it's our job as enablers, as influencers, to go out to the community and make those changes for them to capitalize on it. Government has offered to pay for these transactional costs that's out there for moving online. Government has also, apart from these business benefits, they have gone on to offer loans to MSMEs and cooperatives as well. So whereby cooperatives and MSMEs can apply for these business loans for their OPEX purposes. Never before has government gone to this extent to offer this kind of services and products to the private sector. So now we've seen a lot more collaboration between the private sector and public sector as well, which is also very critical in our recovery efforts. We have seen banks come on board. We've seen the private sector financial institutions come on board. We have seen our development partners come on board. So it's the entire ecosystem, I would say, the entire entrepreneurial ecosystem is strengthening during this times of adversity. So we have also reached out to the ILO, the UN. They are very happy. We've been working behind the scenes, just creating this new environment in terms of, in light of the COVID protocols that we have, shutdowns, lockdowns, curfews, social distancing, using technologies to also adapt. So we feel that this is an important and business environment and how to adapt. We have also talked about how tax incentives has been out there. So for example, in the new budget has been announced, in the agro sector, so in agriculture sector, 90% of income earned by a farmer will not be taxed. So that is incentivized people to move back to farming. But once people move to farming, then what is the next step after that, such as moving from a producer to a manufacturer as well, moving from a producer to value adding. That is where cooperatives can play a very important role. They can be used as a vehicle to add value to the producer's work. We feel that as youth, they have the energy and the talent to do so, to adapt into that area. There is, in terms of us moving forward as in emerging areas, the more so focused on agro-based. We also would like to probably to the Asia Pacific, maybe trade from cooperatives to cooperatives, if that is possible. We would like to strengthen our cooperative college. I'm here to I'm more than willing to here to listen to everybody or anybody that's out there to learn and exchange ideas. What works best in your respective countries. How you may be able to move the cooperative movement from the older generation to the younger generation. That is something that I'm also struggling with right now. And when I talk to cooperatives about to my local network, to my friends, they give me a blank stare because they've never heard of it. We also trying to engage more with the youth groups, school systems. We are trying to engage more with the young influencers as much as possible to become like cooperative ambassadors, I would say. We do go out there on the field, but right now with travel restrictions, even in Fiji, we are travel restrictions as part and parcel of how we would operate. And connectivity in the outer and rural areas is always a challenge. So that is something that we need to improve or work on better. Probably there's other opportunities which youths or entrepreneurs could look at is like we've got an emerging sector, not only just in the agriculture sector, but also say in the BPO funds, in the business process and outsourcing areas. So in the BPO areas, I don't know whether cooperatives can play in that space there, but that is something that could be explored. We have seen how sports is a very strong and unifying factor for Fiji right now. Just last night, Santos mentioned we won our second ever gold and gold medal. So it unified our country and everybody's still waving on that wave of high. We have seemed to forgotten all our problems and our issues, and such a wonderful feeling to be unified again. That is the power that the youths can play and the cooperatives and the sports can play. So maybe this is a model that can be explored. We are very athletic in Fiji. We are very sporty in Fiji. We've got the best rugby players. We've got some of the best athletic people. So maybe this is an area that we could explore. There's other emerging areas I would more than likely happy to exchange on, learn from our bigger Asian brothers and sisters. Australia's always been there, and I was fortunate to have met Mr. Taylor back in 2019, and I was very impressed with the work that they do in Australia. So that's something that we've been leaning towards. But as Santos has said, we've been doing some work also in our legal framework. So we definitely, Santos, I think for the benefit of this workshop here, I think we will be able to probably factor in some learnings that's practiced in other countries that we can factor into our legislation. Yeah, so I think that's all I want to share for this stage right now, and more than sharing, I hope to learn from this forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faisal. Isn't it lovely when the registrar of cooperatives says that he's interested in forming sports cooperatives? Well, that was a thing that I wrote down in my notes as well, that one way to probably create more awareness on cooperatives is to tap other areas, other potential areas that would help people visibly, recognize the presence of cooperatives. And also the fact that I think involving young people is more important. If you teach them in the textbook, maybe that's really a big milestone covered, but then involving young people is important. And here I'd like to make the point that perhaps having a practical aspect to the curriculum would be as important as teaching the theory of cooperatives. And we have tons of examples in Asia Pacific and world over. So you can benefit from that. Thank you also, Faisal, for spending some time in talking about the pandemic. Indeed, I mean, there's amongst other paradigm shifts, there's also been a paradigm shift in the way we've embraced technology, or rather how we've been compelled to embrace technology. And I mean, for us, perhaps in the age group of 18 to 40, it wasn't really new. But then the young people, the really young people who haven't had the opportunity to go to their first day in school and probably hate it, I don't know what kind of impact the pandemic or this will have on them, and the sense of community and the sense of friendship, for example. So it's something that we will probably discover as we move ahead. So thanks again, Faisal. I'm sure there are lots of questions coming your way. And I also urge our attendees to put their questions in the Q&A box, and we'll monitor them and we'll ask the experts for their opinion on the same. Staying within the realm of government, I'm pleased to invite Mr. Jons William, and from the LPDB. It's an interesting and important public agency in Indonesia, whose mission is to build the capacity and improve the role of cooperatives, as well as micro, medium, small enterprises in expanding job markets and bringing additional value to goods and services. You offer loans and ease the access to finance for cooperatives. So we're thrilled to have you on the panel and are eager to hear your experience.
Thank you, Mr. Santos Umar. Hello, everyone. Hello. I have a brother and sister from Indonesia here. Maybe I will say hi to Mr. Suroto and Miss Hera. Hi, I'm so glad in here. It's my first time to international and for the Asia Pacific Youth Cooperative Summit. Thank you for all. Thank you for introduce the institution, and please let us introduce. We come from LPDB, the Agency of Revolving Fund Management for cooperative and micro, small, medium enterprises. And we are very happy to receive an invitation to provide us views on this activity. Thank you. And first of all, we want to allow us to say hello from our President Director, Mr. Supomo. And he was so sorry to unable to attend due to other activities that could not be left at the same time. Mr. Supomo expressed his best regards and appreciation to the Third Asia Pacific Youth Summit Committee for his invitation, and he apologized for his absence on his occasion. He hoped in the others occasion he can attending from the whole a part of the Youth Cooperative Summit in the next time. And however, he specially assigned me to share this experience and point of view to be convey in the enabling environment for youth incubation session from a financial perspective. LPDB KUMKM as a work unit under the Ministry of Cooperative and Small Micro Enterprises, and LPDB KUMKM serve loans to cooperative and micro, small, medium enterprises using 100% of the government funds. LPDB KUMKM has a vision of an inclusive and excellent financial service institution to realize and advance Indonesia that is independent, and has a personality based on mutual cooperation. The mission of LPDB KUMKM is to create a professional, clean, accountable, and transparency financing institution that can provide easy, fast, and cheap loan financing service for cooperative and micro, small, medium enterprises. And due to the limited operational structure, and LPDB KUMKM maximize the financing service through the LPDB KUMKM Task Force, which is located in 5 provinces to serve of Indonesia. With Indonesia has a total area of 34 provinces Indonesia. The task force at Riau, Bandung, Semarang, Surabaya, and Makassar, and in its implementation, LPDB KUMKM distribute financing to cooperative partners throughout Indonesia, referring to the applicable laws and regulation. And talk about enabling financing session. The criteria for the assessment for the financing company must have various reference in providing loans. Regarding access to loans in general, lending institutions are classified as more sensitive or very careful in managing the flow of credit that will be given to the customer. In this case, LPDB just only from 2020, just only service for the cooperative, especially from 250 million rupiah until 100 billion rupiah. Regarding access to loan in general, and institutions are classified as more sensitive, like I have talked before. In simple things that the youth cooperative fund must to do is sensitivity shown through the bank's 5C principle, which consists of character, capacity, capital, condition, and collateral. It's a common use from the financial institution that can measure how they can to give lending to their customer. Maybe all of we have a common in character, and then capacity, capital, and collateral and condition. From the basic principle of financing companies in settling capital for prospective borrowers, potential business customers are also used to considered by financing institutions to provide access to capital. For this reason, cooperative in particular, in addition to having strong institutions with good legality, business development during this pandemic require collaboration and creativity in running a business. For example, a venture capital model approach that is integrated with an information system that provide opportunities for cooperative to conduct trades that are not limited to distance again. One form of model that may be attractive to the financial institution is the concept of a major and potential business cycle. This can give credit to the borrower the trust of the financial company as one of the assessment of the repayment capacity of existing businesses. And also for the financing support to cooperative with inadequate guarantees, LPDB KUMKM has developed the concept of financing by collaborating with various interested parties, both borrowing cooperative members, business ecosystem to off-taker that provides certainty of absorption. The off-taker that provides certainty of absorption of cooperative product and provide payment guarantees in accordance. This acceptance is then expected to increase the ability to cooperative to obtain cheap fund from the government through the LPDB from strengthening working capital. And we have no in 5C, or we can say about the old concept of access to finance, maybe 5C or no 7C or 8C and so on. But in principle, business maturity and prospect are one of the main assessment of lending. The venture capital approach is one of the method from our networking that LPDB KUMKM can approach in providing capital service. This is done in accordance with an additional mandate from the Minister of Cooperative and Small Medium Enterprises of LPDB of Indonesia to LPDB KUMKM, our Minister Teten Masduki, is to carry out supporting activity other than lending, but also to provide assistance and capacity building for the cooperative. For example, in this year, LPDB conducted manager certification for revolving fund borrower cooperative partners. Yes, maybe for this year's, maybe limited only for the manager cooperative partner, and also increase information and capabilities in export development. We know since pandemic, export and import so very have a lot of problem, and LPDB staying in a position to strengthen the cooperative to take the competition well. LPDB builds a network cooperation with cooperative partners, not doing by ourselves. We need help and collaboration for the other ministries in Indonesia. We have a lot of ministries, and in Indonesia we have state-owned enterprises, or in Indonesia called Badan Usaha Milik Negara, BUMN, and also local government. This done so that the business ecosystem that is achieved is no longer only in the district scale, but enters the national business scale. So that's the practice can be duplicated by other cooperatives to carry out capacity building in accordance with the very abundant commodities in each region in Indonesia. Both of the food sector, the fashion sector, tourism sector, and many more sectors. In Indonesia, we have a lot of potential that we can cooperate, we can manage with the great cooperation, and a lot of cooperative that can do that works. So in the principle, to be able to access cooperative capital finance to finance companies or bank, in addition to strong institution, cooperation, and a unity of the vision and mission of members that are firmly and deeply entrenched, but also open access to information, and collaborate with various parties for commodities to be purchased. Developed by cooperatives so that access to financing is obtained properly and according to plan. Apart from that, the role of government as a regulator, as well as the executive agency that runs the economy, also provides support for access to financing for the wider community, especially cooperative. In Indonesia, LPDB since 2020, in accordance with the strategic plan for the development of cooperative by the Ministry of Cooperative and Small Medium Enterprises, we have committed to only serve low-cost financing through government fund, or we can in Indonesia called Dana Bergulir. It's from 100% to Indonesian cooperative partner. So this done as a step to support the government for the development of cooperative in terms of capital strengthening and competitive business access. It is hoped that with government support like this, production and marketing prices can compete with other products that already exist in the community. The role of the government is not enough, but also the participation of the cooperative community in supporting the development of government program with potential commodities which are expected to be a bridge for the micro, small, medium enterprises community through cooperatives to access larger markets to international trades. But from our record, the best key success, the cooperative that advanced and successful today in Indonesia, it's my personal opinion that the great cooperative can grow together with solidity of members and management. So there's a great unity for the members to build the cooperative as well as they want to do, as well as the full confidence in vision and mission that will carry out by the cooperative. So that in its development, both from the institutional side, business cooperation, access to capital can be overcome together with the spirit of openness and integrated then can be accounted for. In the end, the ability to access financing is comprehensive series of processes that must be prepared by cooperative to be able to develop their business. And the best part is the welfare of the members of the cooperative. We believe that the spirit of the youth cooperative, which now has a superior technology, superior information, and have a superior management skill that are very good today, will make youth cooperative a pioneer in the development of cooperative in Asia Pacific, in particular, also in Indonesia. Thus, a brief description that we share. I hope it's useful. Thank you again for inviting us to participate in the activities, and we look forward to more activities from your cooperative summit, and also best regards from us, from LPDB, and our president director also, Mr. Supomo. Thank you for all. Thank you for attention. Good afternoon from Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones William, for providing this comprehensive insight into what the LPDB does. And it does appear that in the last 14 years, you've become somewhat of a catalyst in terms of promoting not only the cooperative business, but also the spirit of cooperation among various actors, including local authorities, government, private sector, and cooperatives. And I think your presentation made me think about the question on whether enabling environment is enough. Probably it's important to foster member participation and as other speakers have mentioned earlier, to create this sense of awareness on cooperatives that perhaps will aid the growth or the development of cooperatives. Your presentation also makes me think about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the UN 2030 agenda that recognizes cooperatives in two places in the official document, where cooperatives are included as part of the diverse private sector. And the Sustainable Development Goals themselves are to be met not only by the states, but also by civil society, by the private sector, and other stakeholders. Just a point on what was also spoken about earlier by Faisal in terms of regulatory environment. And I think one country that's missing from this panel is the Philippines, where we've seen how laboratory cooperatives have been created by regulatory intervention, if I can call it like that, where students have been encouraged to get involved in the cooperative movement to understand it better by forming laboratory cooperatives or small saving clubs in schools. And they have a direct relationship with the adults cooperatives or guardian cooperatives as they've been defined in the law, fostering a different kind of cooperation among cooperatives. I think that warrants a mention, and I'm happy to now invite our friend, philosopher and guide, Mr. Suroto Bravo from Indonesia to reflect on this example I gave about the Philippines, and your two colleagues from Indonesia who've spoken from the perspective of a newly formed cooperative and also the government side. Please guide us. Why is enabling environment important and where are we at?
Hi, Mohit. Hi, Mohit.
I'm Santosh Suroto.
Oh,
Mohit is somewhere in some other session, perhaps.
Oh, Santos. Sorry, Santos Kumar.
Yes.
Hi, Santos. And it's so very. I appreciate to you that you give me an opportunity to explain myself spirit, how to develop the cooperative and It's but I'm 44 now, but when I joined with this forum, I really back to be young spirit. I also send there is a message from Gina, representative from NFUCA. Hi, Dina. Thank you, Mohit. Hello, everyone. May I introduce myself? My name is Suroto. I am the CEO of National Cooperative of People-Based Enterprises. This is we call INCOR Federation, and from Indonesia. This is a new member of ICA. This cooperative is engaged in the real sector of people business. I'm so happy to be in this Zoom meeting and where cooperative young gather across Asia Pacific. I remember my past in 2000. I remember how at that time I was still active as a student, and I actively led the cooperative on my campus. At that time, ICA Youth was just formed and got its first representation in the ICA board, represented by Joanna Bibis-Cullion from England in 2003, where I was actively involved, and I was also involved in writing and the anthology books Youth Reinventing Cooperative, published by ICA and British Columbia Institute Cooperative Studies from University of Victoria, Canada, edited by late Professor Ian McPherson, a respected world historian on cooperative. In the book, there were many stories of how young people around the world have developed cooperative. They develop cooperative activities in all sectors, how cooperatives are encouraged to develop by young people around the world to answer the needs of daily life, and at the same time to be developed as a system to create justice for all people in the world. I was inspired a lot by the stories of my college cooperative around the world, and basically I consider cooperative as an important means to create true democracy and how to place human as equal and have a higher values than capital. Material capital is only a tool for human beings to achieve their welfare in life, not the basis for determining people's fate as the reason of capitalist corporate organization and the capitalist system. This is reflected in the practice of democracy equal to 1 person, 1 vote. What we have inherited from the humanitarian voice of the Rochdale pioneers 175 years ago in primarily a declaration of human equality, not merely a declaration of one kind of the company. The cooperative from the very beginning were declared to be aimed at fighting for the universal values of justice, equality, solidarity, democracy, and so on. We, as early idealists of a cooperative folk for, we inherited a tradition of important ethical values such as honesty, caring, which have become important doctrines of the cooperative movement. Young colleagues, my friends, in my view, as well as my inner experience, cooperatives are not only narrow in the dimension of as ordinary people understand them as a micro organization or companies. More than that, cooperatives have macro ideological dimension as a movement for social change and a vehicle for developing individually through education. In the ideological macro dimensions, cooperative want this world to be fair for all human and the universe. In the micro organization dimension, we learn how to social entrepreneurship, professional and vocational practices, and equitable distribution of profit and wealth. In the cooperative dimension, as a movement for social change, its struggle to create values of justice, equality, and so on. In the individual dimensions, we also learn to respect each other and democracy and develop self-respect. It was because of this understanding that I found the relevance of the reason to stay afloat and continue to struggle with a cooperative and think about the development of cooperative now in the future. Cooperatives are important social institutions built by the people from below to create social justice for all and humanity. Through the cooperative way, we become realistic human beings who are not stuck on slogan, but are an action oriented. Cooperative people around the world aspire to overhaul this unfair world order a simple way. They try to answer the needs of everyday something immanent, but have a broad spiritual dimension spiritual dimension that is transcendental. The world today, where the capitalist system works, has turned the sense of justice. The 99% of the population is governed by the ancient role of the capitalist, which is only 1%. We today, and since the declaration of cooperative in the world, it's turned out that we are still living in the confines of social evil due to the greed of the handful of capitalists and their agents and compradors who work solely for profit and make capital as a policy makers. Environmental damage, poverty, ignorance, conjuncture crisis continue to haunt our daily lives. Corrupt behavior intertwined between political elite and wealthy elite around the world still seem rogue. This means that the cooperative has not worked effectively to reduce it, and we must continue to fight tirelessly. It is important for us to build awareness together, hand in hand. Cooperator, with number 1 billion people worldwide and including young people, must be active in taking advocacy steps, either by adding good statistics on the cooperative or by creating a conducive environment for cooperative democracy to work. I hope the young people can continue to build the cooperative movement together, develop cooperative by providing answers to daily needs. Start in various sectors, starting with all limited resources, start with the simple activities. My experience when observing the fact in the ground, it turned out that only cooperatives are still naturally developed from the ground up to answer real needs that persist and are sustainable. Cooperative built on the initiative from above and waiting for help from outsider are difficult to expect its development. Even if one develops as a business entity, often the cooperative principles do not work and are like a private company. My first experience with a cooperative was when I was in a college 20 years ago. I still remember how we start to build cooperative on campus. Now this cooperative has shown the growth of member and share wealth and extensive activities, including the movement to create the cooperative-based platform business. On this cooperative growth provides real benefit for the community, not only people around the campus, but also the villages, and also contributes to advocating government regulation and policies. From that small experience, we developed it in the wider direction by building a national cooperative, networking with other cooperative movement to build the secondary cooperative organization when I currently work as a professional in it. I believe all big changes start from small things. I also believe that this permanent change does not come suddenly, but if we disseminate the small good deed one day, they will become a big change. Cooperative are a movement for social change, a movement to help oneself through cooperation in solidarity without distinction of ethnicity, religion, race, class, political interest, or social status. This cooperative movement is important for the creation of the workplace because cooperative always enhance the values of cooperation and create a life together that is full of justice. The contribution of cooperative as carrier of peace missions is important in the midst of our society system, which tend to be increasingly fragmented. Cooperative contribute an ethical business practice throughout the world in all sectors, be it finance, basic daily needs, agriculture, and even public services such as hospital, electricity supply, and so on. Cooperatives are a way of cooperation from simple people. They reduce the doctrine of competition that creates conflict and inequality in the world of the capitalist system. Cooperative fundamentally oppose the greedy capitalism system by self-disciplines in organizing and mobilizing resources, piercing the heart of capitalism. This is a glimpse of how personal experience in building cooperative is as a people struggle. I believe one day we will find that human inequality will become real. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Suroto, for your inspiring words and narrating your own struggle, as well as the struggle that is entailed in being a cooperator, I believe. Thank you very much for that. I think you shed important light on the different dimensions, the seen and the unseen dimensions of cooperatives. As a matter of fact, it makes me think that the cooperative that we usually tout as the first cooperative, the first modern day cooperative in Rochdale, was also formed by young people who were all workers in a mill who lost their jobs. So I think perhaps the first cooperatives, be it in the UK or in other parts of the world, were created by young people. So they have been quite instrumental in developing this idea, for it is cooperatives is indeed an idea of organizing shared interests. And this has, as perhaps some of you might know, been recognized as an intangible heritage of humanity, not only of the country that applied for it with the UNESCO, that is Germany, but internationally. So the idea which we are trying to profess here is an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. So thank you for inspiring the young people who are to be the torch bearers of this movement moving ahead in this century. And also to have identified that capital should not be the master, should rather be the servant. And this also, I think, reflects on the fact that social responsibility is a core cooperative value. It's not something that is thrust upon like it is thrust upon the joint stock companies, in terms of, in the context of corporate social responsibility. So I think we need to unearth a lot of hidden gems. Well, they're visible, but they are hidden in some way. And operationalize them, the values and the principles. And I think you've done a tremendous job in starting a bottom-up movement in Indonesia, based solely on your experience with cooperatives, and also perhaps reflecting or resonating the other cooperative value of self-responsibility. So thank you very much, Suroto. I mean, I don't have, we can talk a lot about what you said, but I think we should probably go to our attendees and ask them if they have a question. I do see that the keynote speaker of the 2018, was it 2018 Youth Summit, Miss Zoe Clavel, is part of the attendees. I don't know if she can unmute herself and speak, or if that's the same Zoe Clavel from the Philippines, who's, I believe, a young student from the Philippines who was, I think, 7 or 8 at the time when she was giving the keynote address, and she was well versed with the cooperative idea and as a member. So by getting herself involved, she was already an expert on cooperatives. But while we get her to speak, I think firstly I'd like to thank all the speakers for sharing their insights on this important topic. Although it did not go the way we had planned, we did not speak much about legislation or policy, but we did speak about the environment that exists and what makes it enabling or not, and if that is enough. And clearly, I think we've arrived at this, interim conclusion before I open the floor, that it's important to have awareness to somehow create as much awareness as possible on cooperatives. For indeed, it's a secret. It's the world's best kept secret, unfortunately. And a lot of people are not being able to benefit. We usually talk about 1 billion cooperative members around the world, but what about the rest 6? That's something we have to think about. Along with that, education, I think, has emerged as a fulcrum on which the enabling environment sort of rests for cooperatives, unless there is a proper comprehensive policy on education, both internally for cooperatives and also externally in terms of how the state, what the state guarantees, how the private sector plays its part, and so on. It's going to be difficult to talk about any kind of enabling environment. Of course, in the context of cooperatives, that is a more collaborative sector. It is not a top-down sector in any sense. Although we are among, in Asia Pacific, we have seen cooperatives as an idea that has been borrowed by the erstwhile colonizers, but I don't think in any of the societies we have, in Asia Pacific, cooperation is new. We've been cooperating to survive, and I think that's what has been translated into this business idea as well. The importance of statistics and data and information was highlighted. I'm grateful to the speaker who has done that, to enable cooperatives to have evidence when they forward their arguments and their competitive advantage. And lastly, also advocacy. I think it's quite important that young people become not just torchbearers, but also ambassadors. And I'm sure this is an empirical research I've continue to carry on, that once bitten by the cooperative bug, you continue to do that, and because it's probably the fittest model around that resonates with the young people, old people, and so it's a really a model for this century. And we've heard from excellent speakers today. Thank you very much, all of you. I did receive one question from the audience for Australia, I believe, then Anthony and Francesca. In Indonesia, in Australia, how do you encourage and empower youth to become part of cooperatives? So what are your proactive policies for youth inclusion?
Luckily, I've had lots of time to think about it, but the truth is, in Australia, I think we have more to learn on this from our neighbours in the co-op movement. I know of the examples in Southeast Asia. I think we'd be looking to learn more from you in the Philippines or in Indonesia or Malaysia about actually on the ground building the youth cooperative movement. We're really starting from a low base in Australia, to be honest. We do have some small university co-ops, but it's not like what you would see in somewhere like Indonesia. We had a large cooperative bookshop at universities, but unfortunately that co-op ended a couple of years ago. So I think we're in a situation where we need to start to rebuild the grassroots movement with youth. I think in some of the sub-industries, like in the credit union movement, we do have youth leadership networks, but I think we need to be out on the ground a bit more and learning from our colleagues in Asia.
Thank you, Anthony. Francesca, would you like to add something? For you're a young member of a co-op, if I'm not wrong.
Francesca's just had to jump off, unfortunately.
Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Santosh, just to hop in for a second, you were mentioning Zoe earlier. We've added her as a panelist. Zoe, in case you would like to invite her also to speak.
Yes, I mean, Zoe, are you available to speak? Sorry for ambushing you like this, but...
Oh, okay. She's, I think, having some connectivity issues. We just added her as a panelist and now she's disappeared. Sorry. Let's go back. All right.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Ganesh, for trying. I think it would have been nice, but... it
would have completed the full circle. One of the earliest. Yeah.
Indeed. And that's, I think, quite interesting for this youth summit to have, like, the keynote speakers are usually very young people, and that's sort of also setting the trend for how youth summits for cooperatives, perhaps, or all youth summits should be organized. So thank you very much. Any other point that anybody would like to raise? Any other question, or shall I continue with mine? We have not received any question, but I'm sure that the audience members are interested to know something. There are no wrong questions, as all of you know, only wrong answers. So please feel free and not make this as a boring webinar that usually we see with adults, like elderly people above 35, let's say. So let's, sorry, Suroto, but let's not.
No, I think Suroto is probably the most young at heart among us. I mean, with his very bold ideas, and he's probably changing the world one day at a time, much faster than us. So, yeah,
I agree with that. So, while we receive more questions, I have a question for Hira, because as I mentioned in the beginning, you've become from a national cooperator to an international cooperator. So what is it like? Are you, in terms of, legally speaking, you are an Indonesian citizen who is a member of a cooperative that is registered in the UK. How do you get your, what's the plan and how does it work?
Okay, that's me. All right. Actually, it's not like coincidence, but I bumped with these guys from 4 countries. And then we have the same vision about how to build platform co-op, and then it belongs to the members from the users. And then we look up for the regulation. We can submit, we can register our co-op. And UK is probably it's more convenient for us to register. So yeah, it's just 16 April.
Hira is internationalist.
So it's really a great experience during this time, because it's really hard for me to go out, and then suddenly you can work remote with 4 continents, because we are in 4 continents from all the board. And so maybe it will be a good research for you, because you are in legal, and how the cooperative become legal without a document. Like if you want to work in another country, you have to prove your documentation, right? You have to prove your visa, you have to get your visa, you have to get your tax number. But with the platform co-op, you can do without all these things. So I think it is amazing if we can do that. So we open the job for everyone who has ability to teach, and then it's create the jobs, right? And then it will be sustained, because everyone, and maybe not 1 billion members. So you talk about the 6 billion, 6 billion the rest, right? So when we create this kind of model of business cooperative, maybe we can cover the 6 billion rest. So maybe the whole people on the earth, they will be members of cooperative. That may be my idea, a bit the dream, but it starts with dream, right? And how to get up and then realize it.
Yes, for sure. I think cooperators need to dream and have goals that we can achieve together. Certainly, and this reminds me, you marking another shift, another paradigm shift in which education, education and on any subject, on all subjects, can be delivered through an online platform. But also, I think I'm reminded of Madame Marie Curie, the world's first female Nobel laureate, whose daughter was not allowed to study science because at that time it was difficult for girls to go to a science school. So she, along with other great minds in France, created their own school cooperative and had their children sort of get educated from one another. So it's an interesting case. I urge you to go and check it out on the internet, that how Marie Curie was part of the co-op movement. And well, there's no surprise that her daughter, who was part of this co-op as a student, also won. Irene Curie also won a Nobel Prize, thrashing several glass ceilings at that time. Thank you very much, Hira, for that.
And one comment. I want to just add the comment. This is related to what you said about the inheritance, the cooperative, because I found out that Trevor and Nathan Snyder, their ancestor, were cooperators. So, like I talked to myself that my father was cooperator, and we have to build this. It's like, okay, we can pass this inheritance to our next generation as a part of our culture. So I really agree that cooperative is intangible inheritance. That's my point.
Thanks a lot for your statement, indeed, Hira. We have another question, but also I think before going to the question, we need to recognize this pioneering Japanese university cooperative movement that sort of came as an offshoot of the consumer cooperative movement in Japan, but has really been so instrumental in the growth, in the development of Japan and the young people there. So much so that I remember once I was invited to a meeting with the Japanese ambassador to India, and I just had one card up my sleeve, which was on cooperatives. So I asked him, what's his opinion? What was his opinion on cooperatives? He told me that he could not imagine his student life and the place he was at without the cooperative in his campus, which satisfied not only his student needs, but also mental health and giving him a conscionable, temperament. So I think we also recognize the work done by the university cooperatives in Japan, Korea, Philippines, Singapore, and so on. I have one question for Mr. Jons William. If Ganesh, we still have the time.
Sure, Santosh. I think we can go for another 5 to 10 minutes because the next session is only at 1 o'clock. So we can have a 5-10 minutes extension. We can take a couple of more questions. Okay. Well, I think first then let me go to the audience question. Dr. Sunil Silva, who was the CEO of the National Cooperative Council of Sri Lanka, the apex body there, asks that how can we connect he's trying to say that while using the cooperative principles or effectively operationalizing cooperative principles, how do we connect development of cooperatives in this pandemic to make it a priority in the post-pandemic recovery? Like how to use cooperative principles to develop cooperatives in the post-pandemic recovery. Does anybody want to take that question? Any ideas on or reflections on any of the parts of the cooperative identity statement that you think will be crucial in the recovery process or the repairing process, let's call it like that? Surota, would you like to say something about this?
Oh, this is Frisi. It's Frisi.
Yes. Okay. Do you want me to repeat the question?
It's Frisi.
Maybe the connection, Suroto's connection is not very good, or is it mine?
I think his.
Okay. Okay, fine. Maybe we reflect on the fact to answer to Dr. Silva. I think from a legal point of view, when in 1995 the identity statement was adopted by the International Cooperative Alliance, and then later on it was included in the ILO recommendation, thus it became international law. One of the additions in 1995 statement, which was adopted for cooperatives in the 21st century, I mean, keeping the young people in mind, was the 7th principle on concern for the community. And this, the explanation to the concern for the community principle includes the words sustainable development in its explanation. And I think this principle has not fully translated into legal obligations. And perhaps this is a time for states and cooperatives to reflect on this principle and how it can translate into legal obligations for cooperatives to maintain a certain to have them comply, to continue for them to continue complying with the seventh principle, which is a relatively new principle. But then I think some obligations for the cooperatives would be useful, and at the same time for the states to realize that perhaps this is the only business model that keeps concern for the community or sustainable development at an equal footing as any other principle and any other feature of this business model. So that's my limited response to you, Dr. Silva. I hope we can take this up later on. But my question to Mr. Jones William is that you mentioned one of the C's was collateral while you consider giving loans. So how do you, if there is a small co-op of youth who usually do not have any property, for example, how do you give them discounts, or how do you give any discounts to youth in terms of relaxing the requirements for loans?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Santos. In LPDB, we has a mandatory requirement according to the law for access to revolving fund financing with low-cost government loan fund. Basic requirement for cooperative, both institutional, business projection, and business story. So if I have talked before about 5C, it's not only the one way to assess how to customer want to get the loan from LPDB, as well as material and immaterial guarantee through credit guarantee. We have a cooperation with networking cooperation with the campus, or in Indonesia, Islamic boarding school. We can also Kopontren has also take the loan from LPDB in supporting your cooperative by involving student cooperative or Islamic boarding school, and its member join to campus cooperative and bring them closer to potential business. I've told before that we must collaboration, not only that cooperative stand by itself, and we must help from the others. It's need to connecting us to make our business more larger than before. This business projection, it can be a once-off risk mitigation that we can assess to measure what's the risk and how to take the minimize capital to access the dana bergulir. In Indonesia, we call dana bergulir. So if the youth cooperative has minimum capital, don't worry. In Indonesia, we can get immaterial guarantee through credit guarantees company. In Indonesia has Jamkrindo, Askrindo, Lembaga Penjaminan Daerah, that they can support all of the cooperative and small micro medium enterprises to get the loan facilities from the financial that from government fund. So in the last, I just want to say, in LPDB we have a lot of flexibility to access this loan and take the good administration, good legality, and good business and good projection, and make the business more larger than before. Because I believe the youth spirit and your people has out of the box idea, and many business come from the youth people, and now it can be such as information for us to measure how we can give the lending to the cooperative. So the limits capital not only for the problem to access us, but maybe the strengthen to the what in English kelembagaan, legality and the business process and business projection. It must the one of the best part that cooperative must be shown, so the government from the LPDB can measure it's going well, and not only for the part of lending session, but for the prepayment capacity also, because it's a government fund, and it's have a lot of responsibilities to watching us. So if we have a great vision and mission with the great strategy, it can be reduce the minimized capital to access the loan. And I think for the banking financial institution, they have a unique credit assessment right now, like AI, artificial intelligence, how to knowing about the people who wants to borrow money from the banking, and then maybe they have on yes, social media has good information to show the lender what cooperative or we have to do. So the prospects business or the clearly operation of our business, it's make have additional information that can lender can give us lending. So I think it's the for the answer for me to how LPDB take a strategy to cooperative, especially that have a minimum capital to access the dana bergulir or revolving fund in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very useful, Mr. William, your response. And also, I think one can always bank on the fact that the evidenced fact that cooperatives tend to survive more than traditional companies. And there have been some studies to substantiate that, but maybe our Indonesian colleagues could also map the journey of new cooperatives and see how far they and for what reason they survive more or not. Thank you very much again. We have a question from yes.
Santos.
Yes.
I have changed my smartphone. Can you repeat the question?
Just let me come back to you first. Let's ask Faisal the question from Simran from the ICA Asia Pacific office. She asks, how does the government in Fiji promote or advertise youth-based schemes on cooperatives among youth in Fiji? So how do you, are there schemes for youth in Fiji? And if so, how do you communicate them to the young people in Fiji? I don't see Faisal, actually. I think the connection was a connection issue with Faisal, I suppose.
Right. But I think we can wait for him to get back. Until then, we can probably take another question for another speaker. I'll get in touch with Faisal. Sure. Is there anything that other speakers would like to raise or say at this moment? Or is there something that you'd like to say? Or ask your co-panelists? Well, if not, I'm interested. Yes,
Santos?
Please. Yes.
This is a big problem, the cooperative in Indonesia. I think the big problem is the paradigm. Like in my research from the cooperative history from the Dutch era or Dutch colonial era until now, the government positions is still as a creator and destroyer. That's a big problem now in Indonesia because the government always very active. They're not concerned about the regulations. Like our questions, how to develop the cooperative is a good environment for the people. That means we should be adopted also the cooperative law as a good environment for young people. Like how to start the co-op just with 2 or 3 people that they can develop the co-op as worker co-op models. But until now, they still exist with the old law and according to Professor Hans Muckner, our international law experts, he said that the worst in the world is the cooperative law in the world is in Indonesia. And I think that come from the paradigm the big paradigms is cooperative as they in their paradigm is a cooperative as just a business, and that's why our tax also the tax policies in Indonesia is also same with the private sectors. It's not, there is no distinctions. It is different with Singapore, for especially in the Singapore they have a very special tax policies. That is free tax for the co-op, and that just give a policy that's 5%, if I'm not wrong, and 5% to pay for the cooperative development funds. That is very nice policies. That's why here in Indonesia, our regulations and also in our initial studies for the cooperative law and also economic democracy, it's very low level, because there is restrictions for legal body, cooperative legal body to become a state enterprise. That's why all of public services here in Indonesia is state enterprise ownership, is not become a cooperative. Like hospital, electricity in US, they run by the co-op. Why here in Indonesia there is no hospital and also electricity and public services that still, because our regulation is restricted to that's why I invite all of young people to advocate all of regulations in the big picture economic democratizations. Economic democratization is a very nice word to campaigns by the young people from ICA, I think, in the world, I think, in everywhere, because there is injustice policies and also it's not good an environment for you. I just propose to you to make the project, a big project for young people, how to organize them and collaborate to advocate all of the regulation and policies from the government. In our study, government here still exists as a creator and destroyers. That's why they are very active.
Thank you, Suroto. I'm reminded of what Pak Robbie used to say. Dr. Robbie Tulus is former regional director of ICAAP, and also the founder or the father of the Indonesian credit cooperative movement, as they say. And he usually used this analogy of the Hindu deities, creator and destroyer, and that's what the government does. But very important points, I think, Suroto, what you're saying, and I have taken note of what you're saying, and also I'm sure Ganesh and Shri, who could probably convey this to the youth committee and develop something on economic democratization through cooperatives. I think it's fantastic, an idea. And perhaps because of the state's focus on specific sectors alone in the last century, different countries, especially in our region, cooperatives were used to develop certain sectors. Now it's being seen as a model that can be used to develop the society as such. So I think more investment in other sectors and proaction from young people to create different kinds of cooperatives, like in sport and culture. I mean, this is just a start, but it can go on, and maybe that will help. It has to be a two parallel process. The government also sort of reinvents its idea of cooperatives, whereas the young people take the idea forward into different domains. And just on the question of tax, I think it's important that we somehow convey the theory on why cooperatives need to be taxed in a different way. And the principle of mutuality, like member-to-member transaction, for example, should not be taxed. This is theoretically not good. I mean, Anthony, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this kind of theory needs to be shared with states.
Yeah, we have the same issue in Australia. We do have the mutuality principle, but you hear from government people from outside the co-op and mutual movement, and it's really hard for them to understand the concept of mutual exchange. There's no profit happening, so it shouldn't be, there's no income. But I think the broader point because I'd agree with what Suroto was saying about the tax regime, but I think it's really the responsibility of the cooperative movement to demonstrate what to the government why there's social value. It's sort of a social exchange contract almost with the government that you need to be able to demonstrate. So we have the same challenge in Australia to keep our existing tax status and then build on it.
Indeed, I think
Santos?
Anthony. Yes, please, Suroto, please.
I think the tax distinction is very important because that is like a moral right for the co-op, because economic patron refund models for the co-op system, I think that is main concern about the justice. One of the aim of the tax is justice. That's why the co-op in the economic patron refund model, and they redistribute the income and also the wealth. That's mean the tax should be advocate for tax-free for the co-op because that is a moral right.
Absolutely. And if I may add, in India, it has been clarified that it is a legal right. There have been recent judgments in the Supreme Court of India in a sizable bench that has clarified the position that, look, principle of mutuality applies for cooperatives, and member-to-member transaction, as Anthony mentioned, is not income. So you cannot therefore tax it. So I don't know what weightage an Indian judgment will have, but I'm happy to share them with you. And if there is any legal action, sure, we'll be willing to participate to clarify this position. You know, that's quite important. But thanks both Anthony and Suroto to have shed light on this important issue, and Hira also to have mentioned patronage refund, which should be a factor. Yes, Ganesh, please.
So I think I had one question for each. I think Faisal is not here. More to do with traditional values and how, you know, the whole how youth fits into the larger context of traditional values and cooperatives. That is one. Secondly, for Suroto, I mean, ultimately we are looking at a resurgence or a renewed interest among youth for collective enterprises, whether we want to call it cooperatives, self-help groups, collectives, whatever it is. But social enterprises at large and the social solidarity economy has been gaining so much of importance in the recent days. So my question to Suroto is, there are a lot of young people who are very much enthusiastic about social causes. They are committed. They want to bring in change, at least in their local communities, if not at the global level. But still, there is a, what do you call it, a dichotomy or an irony here, where the majority is attracted towards the for-profit model of startups, or so as to say, startups are way more cooler than it's a cliched question. It's a debate that we've always been pondering and wondering over the past couple of years with this emergence of startups. So my basic question is, what would be the ideal positioning for cooperatives in the eyes of a youth or a young person? Let us take the case of Indonesia or any of the developing countries of, let's say, global south at large. How can we make the cooperative model an attractive one? I mean, there are intrinsic benefits that the model has, and also there is a lot of perception bias because of how cooperatives have been managed, or in a lot of these developing countries, a lot of biases that have crept in because of historical factors and so on. So how do we position the whole cooperative model to an average youngster? That is my question to Suroto. And quick question to Jonas also. So I understand that the LPDB comes under the Ministry of Cooperatives and SMEs. So how do you see cooperatives? First of all, do you see cooperatives and SMEs as different? I mean, of course, they are different, but in terms of providing access to credit, repayment, taxation, or things like that, are there any additional advantages that LPDB does, or at least any of the credit financing agencies does for credit creation among cooperatives specifically? So I think we'll start with Suroto first. Suroto, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first question, if
Yeah.
we could,
The big face problem here for young co-op or young people to start the co-op is first, because the idea of the co-op is not the idea of co-op is aborted before they are born, because in the university co-op they are not give education about the co-op for young people and also economic democracy here in Indonesia for case studies. But in everywhere, I think all of young people, they have also a big problem, because the co-op is still reduce opportunity by the government's policy and also regulations, like the cooperative law here in Indonesia. We should be start up with big big numbers of persons, and then I believe that the co-op is a the co-op is a natural business. They come from the ground, and they come from the daily needs activities. That's why the co-op is not attractive for the young people, because there is a big question for the regulation first, because the regulation is very important. That is like social engineering systems, how to make the paradigms. The co-op is not good for young people, and they should be start with very difficulties, many difficulties, and so on. And I think the startup model co-op here in Indonesia, why young people they use the social enterprises is something like that, and the problem is when they choose the legal body, is the private company, is not the co-op, and that's why the capital become force. The capital is supreme. That's why the problem is the delusion of the capital by the angel investor, something like that. The big problem is when they choose the social enterprises or startup model, and they choose the legal body is a private company, and that mean there is a potential to delusions by the angel investor. And all of the, like here we have applications, startup business for driver and so on. The driver is just the driver, and the owner is the investor and co-founders. It's not by the members, consumers in the model of the co-op system. That's why I think we should be fighting for the regulation. So many regulations, they have restriction, and also make the difficulties to start the co-op. And also in HERA, when HERA start her startup, the big problem also in the payment gateway system regulations, and that's why so young people, they are not interested to choose the co-op, because so many restrictions for the regulations. Ganesh.
I think also one of the major factors, like you said, is registration. So the numbers, the sheer numbers itself, when somebody sees 20 or a new form of enterprise, that itself might be a big limitation. So I thank you so much, Suroto, for sharing your views on this, and also from your experience working at the grassroots with the Indonesian movement. So Santosh, may I shoot one more question to our friend Faisal?
Faisal, I don't see him on the list. Is he around?
He is on the attendees, and we've just added him to one of the panelists.
Okay. I mean,
He
wait,
should be here in a minute. He's back. He's back. Faisal is back. So I'll shoot the question there. So my question was, a country like Fiji, cooperatives have been around since probably the 1800s, and it has been a very resilient model. It has been a model that has stood the test of not just time, but economic pressures, a lot of distressful times that humanity has gone through in the last 100, 200 years. But in the context of a place like Fiji, you have very rich traditional cultures. You have most of the Pacific and Oceania countries. There's a lot of anthropological evolution that probably led to cooperativism later, or models that are much stronger than the traditional cooperatives itself, which may be tribal, traditional, cultural values that have handed down for thousands of years. So my question here is two things. One, do you see a confluence of these traditional values vis-a-vis the modern cooperative structure or the modern cooperative model, how they come together? That's one thing. Secondly, in this confluence, where do you see youth come in, and how do you feel youth can be motivated to join cooperatives? Is it through the older traditional structures, or is it some kind of new domains that might be opening up for youth in the country, considering that Fiji has a new law that it is got on the anvil? One more question from my colleague Simran Singh from ICA Asia Pacific office. How does the government promote or advertise youth-based schemes on cooperatives among youth in Fiji? I'm just collectively taking this both up since both are targeted at Faisal.
Thank you. Thank you for those three questions. And so those are very interesting questions indeed. First, I will just try and respond to the traditional values and how it is linked to the cooperative models in Fiji. As we know, in the Pacific, we are very communal based. We pride ourselves on our communal living. So basically what cooperative does is that it is the best model for the South Pacific or in Fiji in terms of our rural living and communal living, because it brings that level of business structure that is needed to ensure there is a sustainable mode of business activity or some form of commercial activity happening. And in that, and through the cooperatives, it has, like you, Mr. Gopal, had correctly said, it has stood the test of time, because the cooperatives has been around since the 1940s. First cooperatives has been around since the 1940s. And we have got cooperatives that's around since 1970s. So they've been around for more than 50, 60 years and still existing. And basically what has happened is these traditional values or cultural values, it has set a platform in a way cooperatives operate. But the cooperatives by law, through the Cooperatives Act, this brings a bit of more discipline that's needed, a bit more commercial drive that's needed. It brings a bit more governance, that structures that is needed in the rural communities. It brings a level of, it does sometimes do clash with communal living, in the sense that where you would have, say, chiefs or the chiefs or the village elders who's leading cooperatives, but in the cooperatives is a very democratic structure. So that's where the clashes do happen. That is where probably the youths come, and there's a clash between the generation gap as well, between the youths and the elder members of the cooperatives. So in that way, how we are working to entice youth to be part of cooperatives is that what we are doing is that we are directly reaching out to youth groups who have been operating but informally. So we tell them the benefits of being a cooperative, such as it's a legal structure, access to funding is much more easier. You get access to educational materials, you get access to our trainings that's out there. So we entice them on the hand-holding process and the enabling environment that is available, and you get access to these are the benefits of the cooperatives. It also enables them to probably link up with other cooperatives, maybe not just locally, but potentially overseas as well. And then they're able to see the bigger picture. So that is one way that we try and entice youths, but it is a work in progress. We are testing different models. I also interested in listening to the inheritance way of younger members becoming cooperatives. In Fiji, it may not be the most appropriate way of enticing members to be younger members to become the cooperatives because of our different cultures. But I guess because the founding members, those are the ones who were the actual pioneers and the drivers at that point in time when they saw the need. So once the cooperatives have served the objective, then it may that purpose may not be there unless the cooperative is able to repurpose itself into something more adaptable, something more relevant at the current times that may be very enticing to the youth. And in terms of so there is a few ways this is done, how it's advertised. Obviously, there is one in the budget announcement that is to that. So there is also our programs are widely advertised in the papers as well, in the local dailies. It's advertised online as well. There is our programs is not only, but we also, whenever there is an opportunity to speak about it, we do not back down. We go ahead and just creating that awareness that's out there. Every opportunity that we have, we keep talking about it, just creating that awareness, just talking about creating that awareness, education, even in formal and informal settings. The team that goes out and talks about it, the social media as well. We advertise our programs through social media. On all the social media platforms, we've got a Facebook account, we've got Instagram, we've got Twitter. At national level as well, it is also discussed at parliamentary level. So some of our programs, some questions get asked about our youth programs. So that's another platform which is discussed. There is also collaboration with the private sector and such as our informal MSME groups. So we do go and reach out to those MSME groups that's out there. We tell them about this program. We tell them that this is how you apply for it. These are the benefits. These are some success stories that maybe that we can show them. So it's just a matter of dialogue. It's just a matter of advertising. It's using every opportunity that we have, every platform that we have to advocate for our programs. Did I miss out on any other questions?
You unmute. You to unmute yourself, Ganesh.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. So did I answer all the 3 questions, or was
Perfectly? Thank you so much, Faisal.
Well, I think firstly, apologies to all speakers and all the attendees that we've gone a bit over time. I think almost 20 minutes. Wow, that's a lot, I believe. So thank you very much for this. And if you allow me, I'll quickly share a line or two, and then perhaps we could take this offline or maybe communicate on email or something. But first, thanks a lot. A heartfelt gratitude to all the speakers from Indonesia, Australia, Fiji, and am I missing somebody? I don't think so. Okay, thanks a lot. Really inspiring stories, your own journeys. Thank you for being candid in terms of sharing your own journey with cooperatives. We were able to get representatives from a startup cooperative, the government a public agency that's in charge of funding an apex body from Australia, and also a continuing cooperative evolutionary in the form of Suroto. Thank you for continuing to inspire us. I think we are, relatively speaking, this generation is, barring the pandemic, of course, is somewhat in a safe space when you compare it with the last centuries in terms of the longevity of human life, the peace that exists in local societies. I'm not talking, of course, of the different troubles our brothers and sisters are going through in different parts of the world, but generally speaking. And we are at this time where one needs to make a choice in terms of what kind of society we need to build. And the speakers alluded to the fact that sometimes young people choose the capitalistic model. Well, I don't think that that's the whole truth, because young people are not aware of the co-op model. And I think if young people are made aware of this co-op model, they will certainly, at least till the time they're young, they will, I think, be happy to choose the co-op model, which is based on democracy and sustainable development, rather than the might of the capital. So I think what has emerged at the end, I would like to repeat what has emerged from this session is that within the traditional definition of enabling environment, cooperators also need to up their game, if I may call it like that, on advocacy. Of course, this I'm saying in the context of youth inclusion and how the youth can be torchbearers for this movement. So advocacy emerged as an important aspect. Information, data, and statistics on cooperatives, even if it is at the most local level, it's fine. But then we have to begin somewhere, unless there is, of course, a national program on that. Education, as I mentioned earlier, has emerged as the fulcrum on which enabling environment sits. Access to finance has always been important, but organizations like LPDB should be there, and several countries in Asia Pacific already have that, I think. But there is a need to for these organizations to meet with young people, young cooperators, and have a more seamless exchange with them to know what really is needed. Intergenerationality is I think crucial for at least Asia Pacific region, in terms of how the idea gets translated, and the youth also work with the elderly. For we have in Asia Pacific countries that are really young in terms of their population, and then countries that are really old. So how can we somehow operationalize intergenerationality, and of course intercooperation, not only among cooperatives but also cooperatives and outside? I think this is what has emerged, and it's completely, I think, different from the traditional understanding of what an enabling environment usually comprises of. So once again, thank you to all the attendees, the 167 people who are in this room. Thank you very much, and thanks to the speakers. Thanks to the stellar job done by the IC Asia Pacific team in organizing this third summit, which is online, but I would say it is being organized in New Delhi, in the Asia Pacific office, which was established in 1960 to promote the cooperative movement and internationalize it. So we are all part of an international movement. So recognizing that and thanking all of you once again. Have a nice evening, nice afternoon, and a nice day ahead.
Thank you,
Hey, everyone. Thank you.
So thank all the panelists. Thank you all so much for joining once again on behalf of ICA. And all the people in the audience, not just the 165 here, around 120 people continuously have attended the entire session on YouTube also. Thank everyone for their active participation, questions, and discussions, taking your time off on a working day. So I think now we can quickly move on to the official announcement of the Co-Pitch finalists. Santosh will be formally announcing the 7 top teams who have been shortlisted for the final live pitch for the Co-Pitch competition that is organized as part of the Asia Pacific Cooperative Youth Summit 3.0. So may I request Santosh to officially make the announcement and read the names of the 7?
I would love to, Ganesh, but I don't have the names yet.
Oh, one second. Please check your messages.
You mean on, okay. Wow, it's like opening the envelope when you...
Yes, the Oscars.
Yeah, but well, firstly, thanks and well done to all the teams that have, managed to propose a business idea on a cooperative basis. It's not easy for sure. Cooperatives are usually, based on the needs of the members, and to imagine a certain need to link that with a certain cooperative idea and a model, I think is a tough task. So firstly, congratulations to all to have come up with their ideas, and I would urge them all to be somehow presented on the ICAP website, so that other people can also gain from it. And they all, on the other hand, people usually say that participation is important, and it doesn't matter who wins or not, but clearly this is a competition, so it does matter. So congratulations to the 7 finalists who are going to go to the next round. I'm very happy to, in fact, read these names. The first team, I don't think this is in any order. They are the 7 teams that have qualified for the first round. So the first cooperative to qualify is the Himalayan Hemp Cooperative in India. I am extremely interested in your business idea, because hemp is growing as a product in India and for also the world. So congratulations on developing this idea. Second is Phyto Food India. One can imagine what it means, but I look forward to your presentation, and all the best for the next round. Eco Clean Indonesia, congratulations. You've managed to the next round, and you also sound very cool. Udara Cooperative Malaysia. I'm not sure the business area you're in, but I'd guess maybe it's in the financial sector, but perhaps not. But congratulations to you. From the Philippines, we have Gubat St. Anthony Cooperative. Congratulations. All the best for the next round. Cooperative Mara Junior Science College, Kuala Berang, Berhad, Malaysia. I believe this is already an existing cooperative, but the idea will be pitched in the next round. So congratulations, all the best. And the last one to qualify, the 7th cooperative to qualify, is Hangzhou Intelligent Farm Cooperative in China. Congratulations, well done, and do a great job in the finals and compete to win the prize, but then cooperate later on to exchange ideas, how to implement it. Yeah. So enjoy yourselves. That's most important. And thanks again. Ganesh, is there anything else that...
We're good. We are just winding up this session. And thank you so much, Santosh, for making the formal announcements. I just want to mention, for the interest of the audience here, Santosh was part of the team that initially envisaged this brainchild called COP-Pitch, as well as the Youth Summit many years ago in the Asia Pacific office. Unfortunately, this time we are only having a virtual event, but the last 2 summits with so much of energy, josh, enthusiasm are organized by people like Santosh and my dear colleagues here in the office. So I think the legacy continues. And this time we are having a very tight race with very smart teams participating, very diverse fields of interest and activity, competing against each other for the COP-Pitch this time. So looking forward to the finale. The final COP-Pitch session would start at 1 p.m. sharp. I request all the participants, as well as the teams, the competing teams, as well as the other teams. You've also done well. All the other teams, I would like to thank them also from the bottom of our hearts for spending so much time in preparing their business plan, their pitch, and also going through the process of mentoring for the COP-Pitch competition. So I'd like to thank everyone here, and see you in a little more than a half an hour at 1 p.m. India time, when we'll have the final COP-Pitch starting. Thank you, Santosh. Thank you all the panelists for this lovely session, even though it's overshot quite a bit. So have a good day. Stay safe.
Thank you, Ganesh.
Ganesh.
Bye.
Santosh.
Bye-bye.
It's so nice.
Thank you.
Likewise,
Nice
Suroto.
to meet you.
See you soon.
Yeah, take
Bye-bye.
care, Santosh. Take care.
Bye, Faisal.
Are you in Belgium, Santosh?